Good afternoon, everyone. First of all, thank you to the University of Oslo for inviting me over and for giving me the opportunity to visit your beautiful country for the first time. It is an honor to be given this chance to share the lessons we have learned from the years that we have spent collaborating, not just with international organizations, but with many other development agencies. When I was first invited to speak on this topic, I was quite surprised that I was being asked. I have been so used to being invited by academic institutions, but to talk about politics, to talk about governance, to talk about leadership, or even to talk about disinformation. But this is the first time I'm being asked to talk on a topic that is really, really very close to my heart. So while the PowerPoint is still being set up, I'll just give you a context. I will share with you the lessons that we've experienced over the past, not just over the past 6 years while I was Vice President, but even before that. And the reason why we were able to successfully convert the office of the Vice President from a purely ceremonial one into an advocacy-heavy one was because of my experience as a development worker in my past life. I'm a lawyer. I'm a lawyer by profession, but in all the years that I was a lawyer, I really devoted my time as a public service lawyer. Meaning to say, I was not just focused on development work. I was not just focused on litigation, but most of the work that I did as a lawyer was going to the communities, immersing ourselves in the communities which do not have access to legal help, training community workers so that even if there is no lawyer available, they will be equipped. So that was my first experience collaborating with international organizations. I will not dwell so much on that. But as we were helping communities of farmers, fisher folks, indigenous peoples, laborers, women and children, one of the things that was very challenging for us was that because we were dependent on international help, because we were dependent on international funding agencies, the programs that we were doing were very donor-centric. Meaning to say, there is so much that we wanted to do, but we could only do so much because the funding agencies would more or less set the direction of where we would want to go, and that was a cause for frustration. We were very grateful that we have been getting donor help, but the pitfall was that there was a lot of constraint because we cannot do exactly what we wanted to do. Because what was important was that we follow the directions of the donor agencies. But that was in my past life. So after I became a development worker, I lost my husband, as most of the Filipinos here know. I lost my husband, who was the politician in the family, and after we lost him, I was thrust into his world. So the first public office that I held was a member of Congress. I was a representative. I was one of the representatives in the House of Representatives. And the transition was that during my years at the House of Representatives, I devoted most of the bills that I filed in furthering the causes of the communities that we have been helping before. And the realization was that while I was a politician already, the opportunity was that, when I was still a development worker, we would peddle drafts of bills to members of Congress. And these are bills which we thought would be beneficial to the communities we were helping. But when I was a member of Congress already, I realized I didn't have to peddle bills anymore because I was a member of Congress already. But it was, it was just icing on the cake. Because as a member of Congress, I realized that, however beautiful the bills I was filing for the sectors I was helping, the reality was that it was a collegial body. And that was also a source of many frustrations because I feel like these are bills which will benefit the people, but because because Congress was Congress. So it was not that easy to file bills. But to cut the long story short, after 3 years of being in Congress, I was drafted to run for the vice presidency, and then I won. But for those who are non-Filipinos here, the Philippines is quite unique in the sense that the vice president is elected directly by the people. So it always happens that the vice president comes from a different political party as the president. But in the Philippines, the president is very politically powerful. So when there is a lot of friction in politics, it is usually the vice president who suffers. Because under the Constitution, the only mandate of the vice president is succession. We have no, most of the things that we do are ceremonial in nature. Like, a cutting of ribbons, lending your presence in events, receiving foreign guests, etc. But when I became vice president, I was very adamant that I would not waste 6 years just doing ceremonial work. So because of my history as a development worker, we decided to launch Angat Buhay. Angat Buhay, as Rose said, is Tagalog for uplifting lives. So it was an anti-poverty program, and we had 6 key advocacy areas. I think I'm clicking this the wrong way. Oh. Okay. So as I've said, we launched Angat Buhay, our anti-poverty program. We had 6 key advocacy areas: universal healthcare, public education, food security and nutrition, rural development, women empowerment, housing, and resettlement. It was difficult. It was difficult in the sense that even if I was considered the second highest official of the land, we didn't get funding for our programs from government. Because the only funding of our office was for administration and operations. It was for salaries of employees, it was for the running of the office, but nothing for programs. So again, it was like I was a development worker all over again. We would depend on private sector support. So that's what we did. And I think my experience in the past led me to how we were able to successfully conceptualize Angat Buhay. So the first thing that we realized was that because we will be depending on private sector support, we needed to prepare for it. We know that the private sector will only help us if they trust us. So one of the things that we did immediately after I became vice president was apply for ISO certification. And if you are familiar with ISO certification, it is very, very difficult to get. So we spent a good, I think, 10 months just preparing for it. One of the realizations we had was everything was just in the minds of our employees. Nothing was written. So the processes were not written, so we had to manualize everything. It was difficult work, but within the year, we were able to get our ISO certification. That was the first thing that we did. The next thing that we aspired for is that how do we demonstrate to our partners that we are worthy of their trust. So I'm sure the Filipinos here have learned that for 4 straight years, the Office of the Vice President has been getting the highest COA audit rating. COA is Commission on Audit in the Philippines, and it was something that's very difficult to get for a government agency. But we have been getting the highest honors from COA, and that was a demonstration. That was a demonstration that we are trustworthy, and it is very important. For a development agency. While we were a government agency, we're also a development agency. So on the screen, it's a hodgepodge of many programs that we were doing. I promised Rose that I will not exceed 30 minutes. So I can talk for hours just talking about the many programs that we have been doing at the Office of the Vice President. But just to give you some ideas, for example, for education, we have been building dormitories in public high schools in areas where dropout rates are very high because children have to walk very, very far just to go to school. So in the areas where the dropout rates are very high, and the reason for that is accessibility. Accessibility to high schools. We built dormitories there, and we found out that of the students who were staying in our dormitories for free, they walk an average of 3 or 4 hours each way every day just to go to school. And once we built the dormitories, the improvement in the dropout rates were very, very dramatic. So we were encouraged to do so much more. So for the Filipinos here, we have 2 in Siayan, in Zamboanga del Norte. We have 2 in Sumilao, in Bukidnon. We have 2 in Eastern Samar, in Balangkayan, and in Salcedo. We have several in Negros Oriental. Right now that Angat Buhay is already an NGO, there's an ongoing construction of 3 more dorms in Infanta Quezon, in Labo, Camarines Norte, and in General Rojas in Capiz. So all of this was because of partnerships with private corporations and local, international, and development agencies. It was a lot of going back and forth. But one of the things that scared us was that there might be donor fatigue. So when people keep on donating, even if you like helping, there would come a point that it would be very difficult for the donors already. So what we did was, and this was a lesson that the lesson was that we were very grateful that we did this. Once we have a partner for a particular program, what we did was to bring the partners to the communities. So it was not like a fundraising effort where we just get the money. So we did not allow that at all. So once we have a project, for example, a dormitory, what we do is we encourage the partner or organization to be with us in the community, implement the projects by themselves, and the Office of the Vice President only acted as a sort of a conduit between the community needing help and partners wanting to help. And with the benefit of hindsight, it was one of the best decisions that we ever had. Because every time we bring a partner to the community, they are able to talk to the beneficiaries of the project, and the donors have ownership of the project. And they realize how important the initiative is to the community, and they donate more. So most of the partners that we had, for example, for the dormitories, did not settle for just one dormitory, because when they get to talk to the parents of the beneficiaries themselves, the school, and they get updated with the results of why we have been building this. They would tell us they want to build more. So one of the lessons was that, for the sustainability of the programs, make sure that the partners have ownership of the program. Make sure that they are not just partners. Make sure that, they are not just donors, but they are partners. So that's number 1. Number 2, when I was Vice President, I do not know if the Filipinos here knows, but if you are a public official, you cannot accept cash donations. And I feel like it has been a blessing. Because whenever people would like to donate, we would get a third partner. Usually, it's a well-established NGO already. I don't know if you've heard of Tanging Yaman Foundation of the Ateneo de Manila University. Usually, they become our partners. When people donate, they handle the cash donations. So there's a third partner who handles the cash donations. We just tell the partner what we need. We usually do this during disasters, because when there's disaster relief and operations, you would need immediate resources. People would donate, and then a third party would handle the donation. So there's check and balance. And again, with the benefit of hindsight, it was one of the best decisions we've ever made, because our integrity was not at all questioned, because they knew that we were not accepting cash donations. So as far as I think, because we are this is an open science environment, the reason why I gave you context of what we have been doing before, because our experience in our many years in Angat Buhay was the one which was the most crucial when COVID-19 hit the Philippines and the world. You know, when COVID-19 hit the Philippines, we were the most prepared, even compared to many other government organizations. And why was that? Because our staff had a lot of experience already dealing with many projects with agility and flexibility. We had a lot of partners already. All our programs have been data-driven. So it was like second nature to us that we don't do anything that's not based on facts and that's not based on data. All our programs, we have been consulting with experts. So that if you recall, in the latter part of December of 2019, there was already news about COVID in China. Starting with that news, we started inviting experts already. And the experts we invited kept on warning us already of what we can expect. And you know, if you recall, January of 2020, the Taal volcano erupted. So when Taal volcano erupted, we prepositioned a lot of N95s, N95 masks. And then COVID happened. When COVID happened, government did not have enough supply of masks, did not have enough supply of PPE sets. But we had. We had because we prepared early. We had because we prepositioned early. And the reason why we prepared early and we prepositioned early, because we have been talking to experts. We have been attending webinars with international organizations so that we can be warned. We can be warned of what we needed to do. So when doctors started dying, health workers in the Philippines started dying because we did not have enough protective suits the office had. So in the early part of the pandemic, when it hit the Philippines, we were the most prepared. And that was because of the many years that we have been doing these things already. So, but we started with masks and PPE sets. But you know, it took a long time for, there was lockdown in the Philippines. I don't know if you have been following the news, but when lockdown hit the Philippines, the headlines was a lot of health workers were just walking to their hospitals for many kilometers because there were no public transport. And then the following day, we were able to have shuttle buses. And the reason for that is that the moment we heard of the plight of the health workers, we had partners who had buses. So we just called up our partners trusted us with their buses. We said, we'll pick your drivers, because our partners were saying, hey, we have buses, but our drivers went home to their provinces. And we said, let us pick up the drivers from their provinces. And the employees of the Office of the Vice President were the conductors, bus conductors. My daughter Aika, who's here, was one of those who was doing the planning. The security people assigned to me were the ones who planned the routes. So, and the reason why we're doing, the reason why I'm telling you this is that, you can't just do programs immediately without having, without having practiced for it. And our practice was our many years of doing so many other things. I remember after we had our shuttle buses, we learned from our passengers who were frontliners that they needed a place to stay because they couldn't go home and risk the health of their family members. So after the shuttle buses, we had dormitories, and the dormitories were hotels because hotels were locked down before, and we called up our partners who were owners of hotels and dormitories. We said, can you open your hotels for us so that the frontliners will have a place to stay? And it was not difficult at all to convince them. And the reason why it was not difficult at all to convince them was because they had a lot of experience with us already. And their experience have been, have boosted their confidence on the ability of the Office of the Vice President to roll out projects, which will be beneficial. So when we were competing with the rest of the world as far as PPE sets was concerned, I don't know if you recall, of course the richer countries, perhaps like Norway, were getting more PPEs than us. So what we did was we decided to do local production of PPE sets. And I remember when we decided to do local production of PPE sets, we were being stopped because they said, you can't do that. You can't do that because you don't have the ability of doing medical grade. But no one had the ability to do medical grade in the Philippines. So what we did was we didn't listen. We didn't listen to those who were stopping us. What we did was talk to the doctors, told the doctors that can you help us? Can you help us make sure that the PPE sets we will produce will really protect you? So the doctor said yes, because they needed that. We had, we have been helping many weaving communities in the Philippines. So we have been working with designers. So we talked to them and said, hey, can you design PPE sets for us? And they did that in a day. And their design, they submitted to UC Berkeley for assessment. And UC Berkeley said, go on. And UC Berkeley said, as long as you use a particular material called T-VEC, because it is the material that will protect the medical frontliners, but the material is not available in the Philippines. So we again asked, what is the alternative? So we were able to do all that. We were able to help local sewing communities who did not have income at all during the pandemic. And we were able to distribute locally produced PPE sets all over the country. And it was very difficult to distribute them because there were no flights, there was no public transportation available. But how were we able to distribute them? We were able to distribute them because our partners who had flying, they had flying associations. Our partners volunteered. We have planes. We can bring your PPE sets to wherever you want them to. So again, why am I telling you this? Because the lesson really is, trust is the currency. Trust is the currency by which, people will help you, or organizations will help you. So while most of, it's not working again. Sorry, it hung. Okay, that's enough for now. So, as I've said, with the ISO certification, with the COA audit report, we were very competitive because we knew that we had to prove ourselves. We did not have support from government, but we were getting support from the private sector. We did a lot of things. We do very regular reporting. If you look at our Facebook page during the COVID response operations, there is a report every day of how much we are getting and how much we are giving out. So that added to the integrity of the operations that we were doing, that added to confidence building. We have been, we have been very transparent with our partners. Every peso that they gave to we got a third-party partner, Kaya Natin Foundation. They were the ones managing our funds. So we would give very regular reports to ensure that transparency was there, and we were accountable for every resource that we got. Sorry. Oh, yeah. I think I skipped one. Allowance here? That's a 12 already. There's a slide before that. Oh, 11. Sorry. It's skipping. Anyway. But I don't have a lot of time. But I hope you got the gist of what I was trying to tell you, that you have to work hard. You have to work hard. I think slide 11 was about international collaborations. We have been doing a lot of work with the many foreign embassies in the Philippines. For example, we do bridging leadership programs. We do, yeah, I know. Anyway, it's okay. We'll just skip that. But I'll just relate to you that we have been doing a lot of collaborations. We have programs with the US Embassy in Manila. We have programs with the Canadian Embassy in Manila. We have programs with the Swedish Embassy. With the Swedish Embassy, we have been doing work on women empowerment, gender responsiveness. I remember we did a program called Respeto Naman. It's actually a campaign against sexual harassment. We did a program with, I think the program that we did with the Canadian Embassy is Angat Bayi. It's also a women empowerment program where we train young local officials so that the way they lead the policies that they pass is more gender responsive. With the program with the US Embassy, we have been training young local leaders. We did a lot of programs with several German NGOs. One of them is the Friedrich Naumann Foundation. We also did a program with the Friedrich Ebert Stiftung. I hope I got it right. But we have been doing a lot of programs with them. We have been doing a lot of programs with UN agencies. With our food security program, we have been partnering with the UN World Food Program. We did a campaign against teenage pregnancy with the UNFPA. We also did programs with some other UN agencies, and the reason for that is trust. Trust is the currency, as I've said. It's also the essence. It's the, collaboration. Collaboration is the heart of of everything that we're doing. In one program, it's not just us and one partner, it's several partners. For example, the dormitories during COVID-19 that I told you about, it's not just the owners of the hotels that we partnered with, but when people learned that we have dormitories, a partner lent us washing machines and dryers. There's a group of cosmetologists, and every week they would cut the hairs and clean the nails of our health frontliners who are occupying our dormitories. Another partner learned about the dormitories and lent us motorcycles for the use of our health frontliners and gave away bicycles for our frontliners. So it's many different things. The main idea is you have to be inspiring. Your programs should provide inspiration, because the inspiration is the call to action. But you work hard. You work hard so that not only should you make sure that the programs are very efficient, but you make sure that integrity is at the heart of everything that you're doing. Because just one misstep, you lose everything. So I had 6 years of doing Angat Buhay, and then I ran during the last presidential elections. I won't talk about the results anymore. I was talking with the Filipino community already yesterday, and I told them, the fight does not end with the elections. In fact, we treat it as the beginning of so many other things. So again, there is a call to action. Right after we lost the elections, we decided to transition Angat Buhay into an NGO. Rose, it's not the biggest NGO. It's the dream. It's not yet that, but we have, I think, the most number of volunteers. What we don't have now, because when I was still vice president, we had a government office to house it. We had a lot of employees. We don't have that now anymore. But what we have now that we didn't have before is an army of very, very passionate volunteers. And it's been very satisfying that work with Angat Buhay has been so much easier now. Because, for example, during disasters before, if there is a disaster, our team would be on the ground doing relief operations. And some of our staff would stay there for a month, missing Christmases, birthdays, New Year. But now we don't have to do that anymore. Because once disaster strikes, our volunteers are on the ground immediately. So we are the first one all the time to render help when it is most needed. So moving forward, Angat Pinas Now, which is an NGO doing Angat Buhay programs, was only made possible because of the work that we did in the past. Sabi nila 1 minute na rin. I only have a minute. So, what? Just one more slide, please. Just to close. So what you're seeing is our pictures of the launch and the pictures of what we're doing. And these are the pictures of Angat Pinas Now. These are pictures of our volunteers doing the work. You don't see me anymore in most of that because the Office of the Vice President is not doing the work anymore. It's the volunteers. And I think it's the most important. You know, having an army of volunteers would be more empowering than anything else. Just one more slide. I won't discuss that anymore because there's no more time. So, in closing, development must be seen always as a collaborative effort between those with the means to help and those they are helping. So the Angat Buhay Now has placed itself as, again, a conduit between the people wanting to help and communities needing help. So, solidarity, this is the last slide I promised. Solidarity means understanding that development work is not just help being handed out from above, but rather as a duty to fellow human beings who hold the same rights and dignities as we do. And this is very important because it is the heart and soul of what we do. So thank you very much.